Hot take. Jodie Whittaker, I would say, is my least favorite doctor, but that's by default because I just relate more to all the other doctors. And given in time, I think I might appreciate her more, as I think a lot of people will. I think that Jodie Whittaker will have the same effect on people that Colin Baker, Peter Davison, or Peter Capaldi had with their doctors. I think that people who didn't like her at first will end up enjoying her after a while because she's just so recent. I think as time goes on, people will appreciate her for what she was. And hell, even the expanded media might go on to fix her even more, but even if they don't, I think people will grow to appreciate her doctor more as time goes on. I think when it comes to her doctor, I think that she is probably the least commanding doctor. That's why she's one of my least favorites, because I like a doctor who's like commanding and can command a room. But at the same time, I don't think that's the point of her. I don't find her very commanding, but I find her massively endearing. She's adorable as shit. She's very socially awkward. And I think that's the point. I think that when she stands up to people, it's not very intimidating, but I think that's respectable, because it's a person who's awkward. It's an awkward friend who stands up for what needs to be done, and he's not very intimidating, but he knows he's not being very intimidating, but that's not what matters. He's standing up for what he believes in because it's the right thing to do. She's not very intimidating, but she's saying what needs to be said she's saying what she needs to be said. I like that. I find that massively respectable, and I find her endearing. She's socially awkward, but when the time comes to something needs to be said, she'll fight her awkwardness and be like, "No, I have to say this, despite how socially awkward I am. I'm going to say this because it needs to be said. I don't care how I sound saying it. It's just as long as I'm doing the right thing and saying it, because I'm still standing up for what needs to be stood up for." I like that. She's a doctor who doesn't carry that. She's a doctor who doesn't carry that big ol' louder, biggest person in the room intimidation part of herself. But at the same time, she doesn't care, because when the time comes to it, she'll fight past that part of her. She'll fight past that awkward part of herself and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna say what needs to be said. You can take it as you want, but this needs to be said." I like that. I find that massively fucking respectable. Instead of just submitting to the awkwardness and just sitting aside, not doing anything, she's like, no, something needs to be said. That's one of the reasons why the scene with her and why I have mixed feelings on the scene where Graham's talking to her about his fear for his cancer coming back. It's like they didn't really do much with it. I will agree, that's something that bugs me, but I have mixed feelings about the scene itself and what she does with it, because it's like, I like the idea that she's like, "I don't know what to say, I'm sorry," because it shows that she is awkward, it shows that part of her, but I think we should have shown that another way. And then when this scene came up, we've shown that she's, even where we expect her to be like, "I don't want to say anything, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say, I'm just going to go back to my console," we expect her to say that because of the earlier scene where she did just that on something similar. But this is a very serious subject, and I think that in this scene, we should have expected her to react like that, but instead she's like, we see her fighting past it, and she's being awkward, but she's saying what she needs to say because and he's like, "Doctor, you don't have to force yourself." She's like, no. I need to say this. Because I think that that's what she was missing. I think that's the thing that a big part of her character, not just was missing, that's a big part of what her character had. But at points, it was missing. Like that scene could have been a perfect way to embody that. I think that scene I had mixed feelings about, because I like what it shows about her, but I think it was misplaced and could have been the perfect opportunity to show that she is show what she is. She is, the way I see it, she is a doctor who is shut up. Sorry, my phone went off. The way I see it, she is a doctor who is socially awkward, is not really, it doesn't really pick up on social cues, kind of afraid to, is not afraid to speak her mind, but is like, not really like, very outspoken, But at the same time, when an injustice happens, she'll, as much as she might want to stay quiet and keep to herself, she's like, no, I need to say this because it needs to be said. And I think that that's what she should be. I like that. I think that that's where she mostly resides. I think that there were just scenes that mostly kind of contradict it and made it hard to see. But the way I see it, that's how that's who she was. That's how I think. That's at least how I like to think about it. And if I ever write a story about her, that's how I'll write it. She finds it hard to speak about these things, but she'll fight past it. And she doesn't care if she sounds intimidating or not, because she's still the Doctor. It's not her fault that she was given this body that wasn't very intimidating. She still has those viewpoints that the Doctor has, and she has this new personality that kind of fights past it. But the ideology is always going to be the same between each Doctor. Different personality, different form, everything else, but she doesn't care because she is awkward, she's adorable, she's silly, she's endearing, but at the end of the day, when something bad happens, she's like, I'm going to force myself to... It's like that one person who's sitting there in the room and just keeps stuttering and doesn't make eye contact, but he's like still speaking facts. That's what I see her as. She's that one person in the room who's speaking facts, but even though they're being shifty, but you respect them because you're like, wow, I didn't expect this person who's quiet. It's like they're forcing themselves to say this because it needs to be said, because it's something that's important that needs to be addressed. It's like they have the spirit and the ideology, even if they don't carry that personality, that bigger than life personality. It's like they still carry the ideology. Those are two completely different parts of a person. And all the Doctors carry that ideology, whether they present it, and they all present it in their own little way. That's how I see her, at least. And I think that that's what should be explored more in the expanded media. And I think that the show did pretty well at exploring a bit of that. But at the very least, this is my headcanon. But I think the show could have done better at exploring that if that's what they were going for. But like I said, at the very least, this is my headcanon. Because it makes sense to me, and I like that. And it adds an element of character and adds some layers to the character. That's at least... Or maybe that's just me as a writer adding my own little flair to everything. Because that's what I like to do. I like to add layers like that. Contradictory stuff that still makes sense at a core value for a person. That's the shit I like to explore. And if I write a story, that's how I'm gonna write her. Because that just makes sense to me. I don't know. But in defense of the 13th Doctor, that's what I like to... That's how I like to see her. Because it makes sense to me. Even if the show went against it sometimes and had some missed opportunities, that's my headcanon for how she is. Because that's the impression I got. Especially in retrospect. You know? But like I said, in time, I think people will appreciate her more. And I think that's more of a direction that will be taken on to her. Hopefully. I hope they don't go into the direction of making her, like, super, like, blah, 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 blah. Like, pretending like that was never, like, her awkwardness was never there. No. I say embrace that. I don't know. I'm being a bit contradictive. I know I am. But, like I said, I feel like most of this is just headcanon. Now that I'm saying it out loud. But, at the same time, I think there's a possibility that's kind of what they were going for. But, at the very least, I think it's a very understandable headcanon. Though, if you want me to mention like two main negatives that I have about her real fast, just off the top of my head, it probably wouldn't be anything to do with her personality. It's there, but that wouldn't be my main issues. If I had two main things about her that I think could have been done better, and like I said, it's definitely two things that don't have to do with her personality. It's more to do with her wardrobe. She needed a lot more costume changes. And you know what? This scarf from Resolution, I think that this scarf really filled out her outfit. I feel like her outfit, I've never been the biggest fan of her costume. It feels like it's almost there, but it's missing something. And I'll tell you what, when I saw her in this goddamn scarf, I said, yeah, that definitely completes the outfit, at least for the most part. And then this little flower she has in Demons of the Punjab, that was adorable. I feel like those both kind of show what she's going for, where she's kind of closed off. The scarf, I don't know, I'm thinking about it in the moment, the scarf kind of shows a part of her that's kind of closed off, but still open, because, you know, I feel more confident if I'm wearing, like, more clothes or, like, something on me, because, like, there are moments where I forget, like, how she is, and I've seen people like, and I know people like that as well, and, like, usually the more clothes you wear, like a hoodie or something, the more you can feel, more can help your confidence, and, I don't know, the flower, I guess, just shows, that little small, like, speck of a flower kind of shows a bit of how there's a big soft side of adorableness here, despite trying to open your face up with it, pulling your hair out of your face. It's like it's still something small and innocent, kind of trying to do that, but also still closed off to this big baggy scarf, despite wearing minimalist clothes, because she is kind of wearing a bit minimalist, stylish, but minimalist clothes. But then the scarf kind of shows there's still part of her holding back, and it's awkward. And that flower kind of shows a little bit of an open area where she's open with something using something innocent to hold it back, but at the same time, like, if it falls at any moment, it could fall and, like, fall back into her face. I don't know, and it shows an adorable side, but also a closed off side. I feel like that these two pieces were great bits of elements to her costume. For a character that she was, I don't think that her costume truly embodies what she is, except for just being adorable and colorful. I feel like there were elements, it's almost there, but there's elements of it that are just missing. And besides that, and off the topic of just her regular costume, I think she could have used a lot more costume changes. We were on the right track sometimes, but ultimately she did just wear this a lot of the time, and I'm like, really? I don't know. But then again, maybe I wouldn't be bringing up that point if they, like I said, they kept the scarf, and if they at least kept the scarf, or the flower. Or, well, I think the scarf is more important than the flower, but I think they're both on the right track. I think they both could have done something really well for this Doctor. At the very most, the scarf. Or at the very least, the scarf. So yeah. Then I probably wouldn't be complaining about costume changes. It probably would be straight up, yeah. I would just love that. I feel like it really could have added so much. Anyway, back to what I was saying. And this, I want you to know, is all coming from a guy who just a few months ago, or not even, just a few weeks ago, would have said, yeah, I just can't see her as the Doctor. I just don't get it. She acts nothing like the Doctor. But then I sat down and I'm like, Mikkel, I want you to sit down, I want you to think about it. Really think for a minute. And then this all just started coming to me, and it all just started making sense. Like I said before, though, she's still not my favorite Doctor. But at least now I see her as a version of the Doctor that we know. It's like she was done such a disservice with Chibnall. Because Jodie Whittaker herself, you see her in interviews and stuff, she is so adorable. Like, really. Like, I feel like they should have shown more of that on screen. I feel like they tried, but, like, I feel like if anything, it's nothing to do with her, but Chibnall definitely let her down with the writing and the way he treated the show. I feel like he was the biggest thing that let her down and made it hard for us to see, like, what she was kind of going for. That's what it feels like. And that's all my viewpoints on all of this, I think. I'm just kind of rambling, so I apologize if this is a little disheveled and kind of everywhere. I'm not really didn't really come in here with a plan. I just had an epiphany, and I just started speaking it down. And usually when I say things out loud, I'll start to realize if they're bad or good ideas. But no, with this, I just kept expanding on it. Like I said, I've been thinking about a lot of this for weeks, but like then I had an epiphany with whatever I started this rant off with, and I've just been going from there and then explaining what I've been thinking the past few weeks. And I don't feel negative about all this. I genuinely carry a positive sentiment about all this now, and it's like I think I'm seeing something differently. Though at the very least, we can all agree on something. This is the worst looking sonic screwdriver in the whole show. It literally looks like a silver turd. I'm just saying. But at least I think she looks better. I cannot bring a distinguishing But I cannot bring myself to make an excuse for this ugly-looking thing. Ugh. But again, at least I found her as endearing now, though. So yeah, I think she's definitely a much better Doctor than I originally thought. Fuck that screwdriver.